Welcome to the season 3 after show of Rediscovered Movies with your host, yours truly, Nomfanelo. So this time is a little different. So this will be part 1 of the after show. And the reason why I do that is so that I could have more time just to tally up the analytics when it comes to the episodes so that they're counted fairly and all that stuff. So part 2 will be coming out after this episode, which is all about the top 5 results and also to hopefully share some of the answers in the polls from the Spotify profile. So if you guys have not answered any of the polls or the questions on Spotify, you could do so, I believe, on the app only, not on the web browser version. So there's that. So it feels like a lot has happened since I've last done the after show, which was back in 2022. I feel like a lot has happened. So I guess during that time, Twitter is no longer Twitter. It's now X. But I even though the name has changed, it's just weird to not call Twitter now X, but it is what it is. And Instagram with Meta, they have Threads. So the podcast is on Threads at RD Movies Pod. So you can find a link for that through our link tree. Also, if you go on our Instagram profile, you could find the link for Threads through there as well. But yeah, I feel like a lot has been going on around the world because also recently, we just had that insane rap battle / beef, whatever you call it, between Drake and Kendrick Lamar. That was quite, intense, and it's just interesting to see the conversations that happened during that and also afterwards as well too. If you guys want to know more about that, I'm sure you could find there's numerous YouTube videos and also podcasts that explore those in depth. And interesting too, because while this season aired, I feel like a lot has been happening because usually, I think before, I would usually have the episodes premiere starting in the spring. The spring was for season 2. I think season 1 was in the fall. So yeah, interesting for this time because it started in January of the season. It was airing the same time as award season. And for quite some time, I have not followed award season too closely for various reasons. But this time, I followed a lot closely because there were a couple movies that I liked that were being considered for various awards. My main one is Oppenheimer, obviously. So, because if you visit my YouTube channel, I've shared my thoughts on award season and with Oppenheimer too, with the whole Barbenheimer thing. So you could check it on my YouTube page, which you could find under my link tree, which will be in the description. So I thought that was interesting too. And yeah, and it feels kind of weird with this season for me because usually while this season's aired, I would also do recording. I didn't record everything prior to air date, but this time I recorded everything, all the episodes before the season aired, which was an interesting experience because in a way, I'm just whoa, it was that long ago. Because I think now, as I'm recording it, it's been over a year since I recorded probably the first episode for this season. So yeah, it feels like a lifetime, but in reality, it's not that long ago. So I thought that was fascinating. And yeah, also too, so I found overall of this season was good for my opinion. I had fun recording the episodes, not just with my individual episodes, but also too with the guests. I think all of the guests this season was their first time on the podcast. So yeah, and I hope they enjoyed themselves, and I would love for them to come back in the future. And also too, with I try to get some of the guests from the previous season, but it didn't work out for various reasons. But they're always the door is always open for that, so they're always more than welcome to return. So a thing that was different for this season is that if you watched season two, I used Zoom to record the video episodes, but while that was convenient at the time, I wanted to find other like alternatives out there, and I stumbled onto Riverside. So and I really enjoyed Riverside so far because I not just use it for this podcast, but also too for my own content on YouTube. So and that's really helpful too because I could edit everything all in that platform without resorting to external platforms. So it was really a lifesaver for me. Plus, also too, I really loved the use of the magic clips like that I use for the reels, and it seems like every time they keep adding all these new features. So I do want to explore those hopefully for the podcast, maybe for season 4. So I would love to know if you guys have any feedback for me in terms of the video formats for that, and you could always reach by email, or you could visit our social media page. Like all the links will be in the description, of course. So I believe so for one of the episodes, so with Return to Seoul. So that was not the original choice. So because what happened is that there was another movie that I really wanted to do. I think it's called Bahaji on the beach. I hope I'm saying that word right. It's a '90s film. I forgot the director's name, but she directed Bend It Like Beckham, if you recall that movie. So that's the same director. So this tends to happen where like with that film in particular, I could not find that anywhere. So I had to switch that with Return to Seoul. So, but I do hope with Baji on the Beach, I could do that in a future episode, depending on availability. So, I might have mentioned this before, but yeah, usually like I always like start my list very early in terms of what I want to cover for the season, and they do change mainly because of either like availability. I think that's the main reason, or maybe also too. I just felt like I wanted to talk about a specific film, either due to timing or whatever. But yeah, it's usually a combo of those reasons. But for Bahaja and the Beach, it was mainly because of availability. But I do hope I get to cover it in the future. So yeah, usually if you guys listen to the previous after show episodes, I do have a segment where I would break down the episodes, but I'm deciding I'm gonna do a version of that. I'm not sure how I'm gonna distribute that yet. It's just like for timing reasons, I wasn't able to, revisit the episodes because I've been busy with my own stuff. So yeah, like I'll probably like do those as like bonus features. So subscribe. So sorry. So essentially, just subscribe to any of the social media profiles for updates on that. And totally forgot that I want to share what I've been up to during hiatus. So, if you recall, back in the season 2 after show, I wanted to take time off to work on some stuff, on projects and all that stuff because I needed a break. But what happened was I was supposed to work on a project. The project fell through and all that stuff, but I am planning to work on stuff outside of my YouTube channels because I'm starting to do some more writing. I haven't been able to do that for quite some time, but on the career front, I did pitch my short film idea at the Digi 60 Film Festival. This was back in December. That was an interesting experience because it's been a while since I've pitched a project. It must have. I think the last time prior to that was during my script writing program at Algonquin. But yeah, that was interesting. But yeah, I just want to start writing again. Try to devote more time for that. But yeah, just juggling that and also too with my script coverage job. It's not easy, but I am working on that. But yeah, because I've been rambling. But yeah, essentially, I decided to jump back into the podcast because I really wanted to I was hoping maybe 2 or 3 years or whatever, depending on how things went. But because the project I was working on didn't pan out, I decided to jump back in here again. So that is that. But yeah. So in terms of the podcast, season 4 is in the works. I've already compiled a list of films to cover, and I do hope to start working on that hopefully later in the summer. We'll just have to wait and see on that front. And hopefully that could come out if things work out sometime next year. Yeah, so because I think I'm at the point where I could try to manage the podcast also too with my projects, my writing and all that stuff. So yeah, I could juggle that stuff. So, but again, we'll have to wait and see. So always, subscribe to our social media accounts for updates. And also too, YouTube. Want to talk about YouTube. So YouTube decided to enter into the podcast space, and as a result, I was able to, if you guys have not checked out our YouTube channel, you can watch both the video versions and the audio versions of the podcast on the channel, which is also available on YouTube Music. So, and yeah, I just loved seeing the channel grow. Because I believe the channel, as I'm recording it, has 89 subscribers. I know it's not that huge, but just compared to prior to season 3, it was a huge difference. So I want to say thank you guys so much for those of you that have subscribed and checked out YouTube channel. Also too with our audio platforms as well too. I want to say thank you guys for listening to the episodes and also to watching the episodes if you're watching it on YouTube. So it's a nice segue. Want to share some updates. So speaking of YouTube, so Google announced that they're going to be shutting down Google Podcasts. So for those of you that have been listening to the show through there, it will end on June 23rd because I got the email a couple days ago. If it hasn't already ended where at your location, for me, when I got the email, it says June 23rd. So you have until then if you want to listen to all the episodes there. So alternative option is you could check the episodes on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, as I mentioned. Also, too, you could visit our link tree where it shows all of the availability of where you could check out the podcast. Also, too, on our Spotify for Podcasters page, too, for availability. So, also, too, Spotify for Podcasters announced that they're going to be removing certain features. And the main one that will affect here is the voicemail feature. If you have not if you have not submitted a voice message, if you want to have that considered for part 2, do that very soon. You have until, if you're listening, on May 24th at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time if you want to submit a question or comment or suggestion through voice message. You have until May 24th at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So the voicemail, that will be going away in June. That's what it mentioned on the website. I'm assuming at the beginning of June. So that means that if you want to submit all your questions, comments, suggestions, and all that stuff, you could email rediscoveredmovies@gmail.com. You could also visit the forum section of our official website on Wix, which is you can find through our link tree and also too in the description. Also too, on social media, you could post your questions just in the comment section of the post for the episodes. Also too, if on YouTube, you could do that underneath the video in the comments section, or you could visit our community tab where you could post questions and comments through there as well too. So there's that. And also too, almost forgot, we have a Buy Me a Coffee page. So you could find the podcast on Buy Me a Coffee at RD Movies Pod, where you could support via donation or buy me a coffee. So and the donations through that is going to go towards the podcast. And I do hope in the future potentially have bonus content. At this moment, I'm not going to introduce a membership. But if you are interested, like, to have a membership, just let me know through email or on social media. Also, too, I hope in the future to launch merch there. So I don't have any plans right now, but I do hope sometime in the future. And if I do, most likely will be on Buy Me a Coffee. So there's that for updates. That's essentially what I have to say for this episode. Part 2 is going to come out after this episode. And where I'll be hopefully be answering your questions, and also to hopefully to hear from some of the guests or most of the guests that were featured in the season. And then I'll be sharing results of top 5 lists for both the audio formats and also too with YouTube. And yeah, that's pretty much for part 2. And as always, you can find me. I'm on Instagram, X, or Twitter, whatever you call it. YouTube, Linktree at Nomfanelo. You can also find the podcast on the same platforms at RD Movies Pod. And on Spotify app, you could answer the feature question and rate the podcast. And then if you're on Apple Podcasts, you could leave a review and rate the podcast. And you can submit your questions, comments, and suggestions by email, which is rediscoveredmovies@gmail.com. And I want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hopefully I'll get to catch you guys in part 2. Take care.